Today we are going to be talking about the top marijuana stocks for July 2019. Since the overall market for marijuana stocks has been quite melancholy, it makes sense to only find the best setups. And the ones on this list should point you in the right direction. But I'd say that the beauty with these videos is that I actually go and present all of the facts along with my opinion so that you can go and do your own due diligence to come to your own conclusion. But aside from doing your own research, it's very important that you don't just buy and randomly hold these stocks. This isn't a channel for little boys and girls who like to hold and hope. You need to have a concrete plan and a concrete strategy behind every single entry point that you employ. So I am going to be talking about how to actually find good entry points and of course exit points, but these are really just sort of example foundational strategies that you can employ if certain scenarios happen. But the big takeaway is that you need to have a plan when trading these stocks. If you're just going to randomly buy in, just don't even bother watching this video. But anyways, the only thing I ask of you in return for this video is that you hit that ravishing like button and of course subscribe if you see value in the following video. Also, a quick plug, if you'd like to trade these stocks commission free, I do recommend checking out Webull. They also have a free stock promotion if you sign up and deposit using our link below. Okay, so the first one we are going to be talking about today is CWBHF, aka Charlotte's Web Holdings. Hopefully we can use Charlotte's Web to catch some profits. Ha. So starting with the technicals, we had this consistent sell-off since the beginning of April. We saw a break of directional strength below our long-term SMA line, and then we saw it oversell and oversell until it found a bottom at 1090. Then it tested an uptrend and it confirmed an uptrend with our first candlestick holding above the short-term blue SMA line. Now we've built price strength over the blue SMA line and then given some back, but the question is whether or not we will keep our price strength over the SMA line. What I'm going to be looking for in July are two things. One, I want to see it test and then reject a change of price strength below our short-term blue SMA line. Two, I'd like to see the price strength widen and provide us with a confirmation of an uptrending direction over our long-term red SMA line. As we know, strong price action that is in a consistent uptrending pattern is more likely to continue uptrending, and thus accepting a change of direction over our long-term SMA line would be a technical confirmation that it makes sense to take a position. There are several risk factors involved with this particular stock. We have our elevating factors and we have our deprecating factors. The elevating factors are the fact that we have strength over the blue SMA line and that we have a lot of upward potential from current trading price at $14.75. The problem though is that at the current trading price, that's all we have going for us. Our deprecating factors, the factors that actually push the odds of success against us, are greater. Our first deprecating factor is that the stock price is close to overbought. That means it's more likely to be overvalued. Our second deprecating factor is that we are in an overall downward direction since we still haven't broken directional strength over our long-term SMA line. And the third deprecating factor isn't exactly a deprecating factor as of yet, but we are starting to lose strength over our blue SMA line as we are gapping a bit closer. So the reason that I'm still recommending this though is that these deprecating factors will turn into elevating factors if we do see a rejection of a downward reversal and a confirmation of an overall uptrend over our long-term SMA line. In terms of fundamental and price drivers, the only thing I really care about with Charlotte's Web is if it has the sort of numbers that will bring in new slews of investors. While traders don't generally trade because they think of a stock as a good long-term play, investors do, right? And new investors coming into the market based on some sort of catalyst, even though they're there for a very long period of time, they can be brought in by good numbers, and that could allow us to short-term fluctuations that we could trade off of. And the company is quite profitable, and Wall Street is projecting a 111% sales growth in 2019. So we do have that, and we also have a previous history of bullish analysts and investors rallying up the stock price in a relatively short amount of time. Okay, so the second one is IIPR. IIPR is on the real estate side of the cannabis industry and has unique fundamentals that we will be covering later. But just by looking at the 180-day chart, I want you to take a second and see if you can figure out why it is that I like this play. Where do I see the value? If you've watched my videos before, you know that I try to encourage action-based learning with these videos. I'm not a fan of just sort of watching videos and sort of absorbing it like a zombie. I don't think that's how the brain works. Maybe it does for some people, but for me, just watching some guy talk, it could be a form of entertainment, but it's not going to be something that I remember. So I'm a huge fan of action-based learning. So take a moment to guess the factors as to why this is a good play, and then comment those below. While I'm waiting, I'll make 5 little boop noises to give you time to go down and comment. Boop, 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 boop. Well, I hope you took that opportunity to comment and that you are a magical pony that actually takes an active approach to learning how to trade. Anyways, the first acceptable answer, and probably the most apparent answer as to why I see value in this play, is because of the consistent uptrend in positive direction over our long-term SMA line. This was perhaps what I'd say is the most obvious reason. But the A+ answer, I'd say the A+ answer would take into consideration the fact that we not only have this beautiful upward direction, but also that it has tested and made attempts at a redirection. Here, and here, it tested and then promptly rejected attempts to break direction below our long-term red SMA line. This solidifies the uptrend because now we have a previous pattern of rejecting attempts at downtrending. And again, for those who are unfamiliar, when the stock is trading below the red SMA line, that means we're in a downward direction. When it's trading above the red SMA line, that means we're in an upward direction. Pretty intuitive stuff. Anyways, if you got this, go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back. And if you didn't get this, that's okay, because honestly, at the end of the day, we're all but lowly stock market peasants. But anyways, these things alone are very powerful factors, but there are really only two different elevating factors. There needs to be more to convince us to take a position. So we have just experienced a pushback from an uptrend after quite a beautiful run up over our blue SMA line. So now we are in a longer term trend where we are at fair value, are maintaining upward direction, and we also have a previous pattern of rejecting any attempts downward. So with this in mind, we now have what looks like a temporarily discounted position, but this hypothesis is going to require more than just what we see on the charts. Put simply, we don't just buy stocks because they've been beaten down. We need to see signs of regaining strength. I'd say we should focus on getting in at both price strength and directional confirmation intraday. It's extremely important that we buy in when we are seeing signs of a recovery. In terms of the fundamentals, the beautiful thing about being on the real estate side of cannabis is that IIPR displays profit. Okay, great. So the next stock on this list will be IGC. Now, IGC has had a pretty solid uptrend for the last few days or so. It broke its losing direction after hours about 10 days ago with our break above the long-term SMA line. And we saw a pretty strong show of directional strength above our long-term SMA line, then some weakening, and then a downward direction. But what was important happened afterwards. We saw this fighting back and forth, but since then we've seen this increasingly fast run-up of directional strength above our long-term SMA line. And most notably, we were given the opportunity to buy into the confirmation and simply ride the price action up and measure the price weakening over our blue shorter SMA line. Now we are in a period of several major elevating factors. The first is that we have both price and directional strength over our SMA lines. And the second is that long term we have just broken the long struggle to accept an upward direction. This holding above the long-term SMA line is quite beautiful because it signifies that almost after a year of selling off, we are now once again back in the upward direction territory. So the question, of course, will be whether or not IGC will be able to hold its uptrend or break back into bear territory. But if it does hold its uptrend, this irrational stock could very well have upward potential back to before it broke into a downward direction. One of the things that I've personally been focusing on is declaring more conservative lines of resistance. And to me, one of the most conservative but also realistic places to declare resistance is at the point where the stock actually took that leap from being uptrending to downtrending. It's at this point where after a long struggle, the stock broke into bear territory. Okay, so for context, opening up the year chart, we see that IGC displayed the supernova pattern where it spikes up massively during a relatively short period, and then it sells off because the euphoria that propped up the share price was not based on solid fact, but was rather based on the irrationalities of the market. So we have the spikeability factor with IGC, and we have a few other things going in our favor in terms of elevating factors. What I'm going to be looking for in July, specifically what I'm going to be looking for is intraday confirmations and some signs of showing strength and getting in at a good deal. Now, Crone is not a hard one to make an argument for. We have a decent amount of upward potential from 1578 to 25.1. We are near fair value long term, and we are also in a period where the price action is fighting to hold its upward direction over our long-term SMA line. I'm going to be looking for a confirmation both intraday, but most importantly, after seeing some consistent strength over our long-term SMA line, we love to buy into an upward direction, especially at the beginning of an upward direction. We have downward potential short-term to 13-ish, which isn't terrible. I'd expect to see a good entry point sometime this month. Now, I don't have a lot to say about Crone's fundamentals, so I won't go much into it. I've covered it extensively in my other top marijuana stock videos. but I'd say they are lagging behind a lot of the other names that you may know, but the price action still seems to give us some opportunities, so not a lot of driving factors there. Also, if you are wondering why I didn't talk about some of the biggest marijuana stocks such as Aora and Tilray, it's just because they simply haven't moved much, or rather, they just haven't shown us price action that's been tradable. I really couldn't care less if the stocks make great long-term positions, because we're not really focusing on investing long-term, we're focusing on trading off price action, and if the price action doesn't move, or we can't amplify it using options, or it's not tradable, then there's just no reason to really focus on it. As traders, I believe that if we don't get the criteria that we want, it's best to just go and hide in our caves until we see what we want, and then we'll come out of our caves. Always trade like a spoiled brat. Okay, well, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach out below or join our free Facebook group, ZipTrader Circle. We also have a trading tutorials playlist and a bunch of other resources on the Discord chat that could be helpful for you. Anyways, have a great day, folks, and I'll see you in the next video.